JC foul upgraded to a flagrant 1. In judgment of the officials, the foul by Sheldon was unnecessary. The contact to Caitlin Clark's face. Furthermore, there was wind up and impact, and the contact to the face carries a potential for injury. Question: what went into deciding Marina should get a technical instead of something more severe like an ejection? She said the contact made by Mabrey did not rise.
The WNBA referees just released their official report on the Fever vs. Sun game, and it didn't help. It made things even worse. Instead of clearing things up, the report exposed how broken the system really is. The refs tried to defend themselves, but all they gave us was a perfect example of how to say a lot without actually saying anything, all while acting like they're the hero.
Marina Mabrey's technical foul from the Fever Sun game has been upgraded to a flagrant 2, the league told ESPN. A flagrant 2 comes from a standard fine. Additionally, Sophie Cunningham was fined separately for her hard foul with 40 seconds left to play. No players will be suspended. And a lot of fans were really upset about this because if Marina Mabrey's foul during the game was called a flagrant 2, like it was upgraded to, then she would have been ejected during the game. And I don't think any of this stuff with Sophie and JC would have happened at the end of the game if the refs would have gotten control of the game much earlier on. And I do think if they would have ejected Marina Mabrey during that whole play when she completely blindsided Caitlin, it wasn't a basketball play, it was after the whistle. If she would have been ejected at that point in time, I think it would have set the tone.
Let me break it down for you. This isn't just bad refereeing. It's clear, targeted bias against the Indiana Fever. It's so obvious that even the refs' own explanations can't cover it up anymore. If you're wearing a Fever jersey, especially if you're Caitlin Clark, you're way less likely to get a fair call. That's not an exaggeration. It's just the plain truth.
So Caitlin Clark gets poked in the eye. Marina Mabrey doesn't even see what happens, and she just decides to clean Caitlin Clark out of it. And the referees just said, nah, it was not worth an injection. But now, in an update, it has been upgraded. It has been upgraded. So she has now been upgraded to a flagrant 2. So basically, all they had to do was just eject her. All they had to do was eject her, and none of this happens. If the referees had ejected Marina Mabrey, nothing else happens. The Sophie Cunningham situation.
And what did Ashley Gloss have to say about this mess of a game? Get ready for this, she said. The contact by Mabrey didn't warrant an ejection and didn't meet the criteria for a flagrant foul. Seriously? Marina Mabrey hit Caitlin Clark from behind and knocked her to the ground, after Clark had already been poked in the eye. And somehow, that's not enough for an ejection? Give me a break.
How the fuck does that not rise to a level of ejection? Someone explain that to me. I think even in the NBA that might have been an ejection. I think both of them would have got ejected. She said additionally it did not meet the criteria for flagrant 1 foul penalty 2. So what does? Right? Question: why did Caitlin Clark get a technical foul? After the foul by Sheldon, Clark reached in an unsportsmanlike manner towards Sheldon. What type of sense? Yo, she got hit in the eye. And then in one angle, it looks like she got damn near punched. And then she trying to get up. She trying to get the girl off her. The girl attacks at her. And then Marina comes and knocks her down. That's crazy. So you got to wait till something happens so the lead viewership could plummet further.
According to Gloss, Clark got a technical foul for unsportsmanlike behavior towards Sheldon after getting poked in the eye. So let me get this straight. You get hit in the face, and if you react like a normal person, you're the one who gets punished? That's the kind of twisted logic we're dealing with here.
That Caitlin Clark deserves to have people kind of go at her because she's a trash talker. Okay, if that is the logic. But the media are now saying Caitlin Clark brings everything on herself. And by the way, Caitlin Clark, if you want to say JC Sheldon getting in her face and like everything until the eye gouge, nobody brings eye gouges on themselves. This is the same as, oh, she brings it on herself with the push-off. Just call the hand check and the push-off.
And the cherry on top? Sophie Cunningham gets ejected with a flagrant 2 for standing up for her teammate. Meanwhile, Marina Mabrey, who basically assaulted Caitlin Clark, originally just got a technical foul. Only after a huge public backlash did they quietly upgrade it to a flagrant 2. But still, no ejection, no suspension. Make it make sense.
They got it right at the end of the day, but why not get it right away? That is what most of us are talking about, man. There's no way y'all coming after the game and then now you're saying, oh, it should have been a flagrant 2. Oh, we should have. Look, you're catching the smoke and now you want to change it. You need to do it during the game. All right, during the game, go ahead and call it the way it is, man. Stop with the none.
Enjoying this? Make sure to subscribe. Now here's where things go from bad to outrageous. The stats don't lie, even if the refs do. Caitlin Clark has taken 17% of all flagrant fouls in the WNBA this season. Think about that. One player, nearly a fifth of the league's flagrant fouls. Either she's somehow the most reckless player in league history, or, just maybe, she's being targeted and the refs are allowing it. But the officials want us to believe it's all just a coincidence. That the league's most skilled, most watched, most marketable player just happens to keep getting hit, and it has nothing to do with the way the games are being called.
So what you mean by get control of the game, just to be in your words?
Get control of the game is call the fouls that are actually happening on the floor. Right, and consistently call the fouls that are actually happening on the floor. Okay, not just if somebody swings and misses, right? Consistently call the fouls.
Coach, do you think it's something pertaining to your team, or do you think this is a league-wide issue?
Well, I've seen quite a few dust-ups in the league so far, so I think it's a league-wide issue. I mean, bad officiating is bad officiating.
And then what did you make of Sophie Cunningham's flagrant foul on JC towards the end?
It was a flagrant foul.
Do you think it's like defending Caitlin or defending the team, or how do you view just how it all?
I view it as a flagrant foul.
I asked about the game, too.
Yeah, well, I mean, you guys came for basketball.
Yeah,
Let's
no,
talk
seriously.
about basketball.
Coach White saw this coming from the very first quarter. She warned the refs that tensions were rising and something bad was going to happen if they didn't get control. But the officials ignored her, let the game spiral out of control, and then acted surprised when it all blew up. Even the WNBA admitted the refs lost control and made mistakes. Yet the main punishment? It went to Sophie Cunningham, the one who was standing up for her teammate, not the player who started it. And this isn't just about one game. Multiple sources say complaints about WNBA officiating are now so common, they clearly point to a bigger problem. But somehow, Indiana keeps getting hit the hardest.
It blows my mind how they can somehow get refs for the WNBA that can't control the game. Like, half of your job as a ref is to control the players, control the game, make sure things don't randomly get out of hand. And then you just watch things get out of hand and you're like, dude, this is gonna go so viral later. Like, I'm convinced that's what the refs were thinking last night during the Fever and the Sun game. Dude, this is gonna go so viral later. Because, like, they had no control over that. Absolutely no control over that game, dog. And at the end of the season last year, one of the things I said, like, I really hope changes in the W between last year and this year is that they get better refs that kind of actually give a shit and, like, know what they're doing. And they haven't done that. They still haven't.
The most damning proof of bias isn't just in one game, it's the clear pattern of how different players are treated for the same actions. Marina Mabrey takes a cheap shot that sends Caitlin Clark to the floor, and she only gets a technical. Sophie Cunningham responds with a hard but controlled foul to stand up for her teammate, and she's immediately ejected. Let's be clear, Cunningham's foul was intentional. Yes, but it was the kind of foul you see when officials lose control of a game. She held on a little too long and made her point, but it wasn't dirty like what Mabrey did. Yet somehow, in the refs' twisted logic, Sophie deserved an ejection more than Mabrey. Even the broadcasters called it out during the game, blaming the officials for letting things get out of hand. They couldn't believe what they were seeing, and neither can we.
She said no place in the game for what Sophie Cunningham did. What about what... She didn't say shit about what the other two people did. She said no place in the game for what Sophie Cunningham did. That warrants further review and penalty from the lead. But you're not going to review and penalize what Marina and...
Coach White deserves credit for having the courage to call out the corruption in her post-game press conference. She gave one of the strongest critiques of WNBA officiating we've ever heard, saying, Everyone's getting better except the officials. And she didn't stop there. White made it clear this isn't just about one game, it's about a full season of biased calls against her team. The level of disrespect for our team has been unbelievable, she said. And she's right. When a coach has to spend press conferences asking for basic fairness instead of talking basketball, the system is clearly broken. White also exposed something the league doesn't want to admit. There's a supposed system for teams to file complaints about officiating, but it doesn't actually work. I don't know if the system works, she said, basically calling out the WNBA for pretending there's real accountability when there isn't.
Every year when we have our league meetings in the fall and in the spring, we say the same thing over and over and over. And nothing has changed. So, I'm not sure outside of continuing to submit clips, continuing to talk about it. Like, look, their job is hard. Their job is hard. Their job is hard, right? Their job is hard. The game has changed so much. Players are faster, they're better, they're bigger, they're stronger. They're as good as they've ever been. They're as athletic as they've ever been. The game is fast now. Things are happening quickly. Everybody's getting better, except the...
After all the criticism, all the evidence, and being called out by fans, coaches, and analysts across the country, what did the WNBA do? They admitted the refs made mistakes and lost control. How generous of them, to state the obvious only after being cornered by the facts. But here's the real kicker. The only person punished was Sophie Cunningham, the one who was defending her teammate. Marina Mabrey? Just a fine, and she moves on like nothing happened. The message is loud and clear. If you play for the Indiana Fever, you'll be held to a totally different standard than the rest of the league. The WNBA says the investigation is still ongoing, but we all know how this ends, with a vague statement about improving officiating, maybe a ref reassigned for a game, and then everything goes right back to business as usual.